In this video, Dan Ives of Wedbush Securities analyzes Tesla's recent stock decline, noting a 40% drop over the year due to 7 consecutive weeks of losses. He views this sell-off as a generational buy opportunity, maintaining an outperforming rating with a target price of $550. He emphasizes that the company's growth will largely come from advances in autonomous technology and the introduction of lower-cost vehicles, which he expects will significantly boost the stock value in the next 12 to 18 months.
To their biggest part of their technology cycle that they've had, maybe forever, maybe in the last decade.
Does that require Elon to distance himself from the brand or recommit himself to the brand?
Look, I think this is one where I continue to believe the bet for the ages was Musk's bet on Trump. Because of autonomous, deregulatory, and I believe autonomous is worth ultimately $1 trillion alone to the ultimate story. From a brand perspective, look, we think about 10 to 15%. Maybe the sales decline is related to some of the brand issues. But based on all of our survey work, we think only about less than 5% of Tesla holders today, so Tesla owners, will ultimately think twice, potentially, from a brand perspective because of Musk. So that's still pretty limited relative to where I view actually the whole growth opportunity.
What about the whole distraction? I mean, he's always had a lot of jobs and a lot of CEO roles, and so this has always been a constant question. But now that he's spending so much time in Washington with the president, working on Doge, does that make you wonder about his running it?
Yeah, look, we went through similar things when it came to Twitter X. I mean, we've gone through other situations as we've talked about. I believe this is something where 3-6 months from now, I think you'll see him a lot more dialed into Tesla in terms of as we go into FSD, as we go into autonomous. I also think, perception's reality, and I get that, but from all the work that we've done talking to people at Tesla, I actually think he is driving a lot of the bigger initiatives at Tesla, despite the view that he's basically 110% into Doge, and that's where all of his time is.
Where do you come up with this 5% number? I only ask that in terms of people who might change, because, typically, I think it's fair to say his customer has been sort of center-left, let's say.
Sure.
They've been environmentally focused. Republicans, perhaps not as much so, at least in certain parts, and so less likely to buy one. I don't know. The Journal today, the story, they cite a lot of people. It's anecdotal, saying, I'm going to give it up at the end of the lease. Where do you come up with 5%?
Yeah, I mean, for us, 1,000 Tesla owners, I mean, it's less than 5%.
So you did a survey of 1,000
Tesla. So to me, of 1,000 customers, less. And I could also tell you, this is something, as I've talked to others at dealerships, whether it's in Europe, what we've seen even in China, and what I believe we're going to see in the U.S., I get the brand words. It is a dark time right now for Tesla bulls. But to me, it is not the time to head for the hills. This is actually the time to double down. The reason we add to the top picks list, I think we look out 6, 12 months now. I think this is ultimately, the stock is a double.
Right.
Over the
but
next
not
12.
On cars, though, right? Is it on Optimus? What's it on?
I think 90% of the value is going to be autonomous and Optimus driven. I think autonomous itself is worth more value than all of Tesla today. And I just think as we've gone through many periods, despite the frustration over the years, that has always been the opportunity. And I just think right now we are going into what could be actually the biggest golden path for Musk and Tesla, despite right now what feels like a white knuckle moment, just bad news after bad news.
You're right. There have been those moments in the past, and the stock has recovered. Dan, we got to keep it a little tight today. It's good to see you.
No,
thanks for coming in, Dan Ives.